Awesome. Cool. Cool. So I'm excited for our spring 2021 editing workshop that we are doing. I am going to be teaching Adobe Premiere, and Savannah is going to be teaching Adobe Rush on her phone. And both of these are going to be super helpful for anybody who wants to be an MMJ, for anybody who just, you don't necessarily even have to be an MMJ. You could be in
You could be a producer.
PR. What was that?
You could be a producer.
Producer in PR. A lot of the things that you're going to have to be doing for promotions is also going to be for working with Adobe Premiere. I would say the Adobe products are probably the most used editing software throughout the whole globe at this point. There are other editing softwares, so don't just think Adobe is the only one, but this is mainly probably what most news directors or any type of like job is going to be expecting you to use. So let's get started. Cool. Savannah, do you want to share your screen a little bit?
Yeah, I will start sharing our PowerPoint.
Okay, cool.
Okay, let me pull this up.
Ooh.
Everyone can see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sophia, did you want to talk a little bit about the first couple slides?
Yeah. So CSUN provides each of its students with Adobe Creative Cloud software at no additional cost. So if you are a CSUN student, which I'm assuming all of you are except for Kyle, that you have Adobe products, the whole entire cloud for free. And that is huge because it's usually, I wouldn't say it's extremely expensive, but it is costly if you have the entire suite. And that is completely free for any of the students, which is super awesome. Take advantage of that as long as you can, and teach yourself as much as you can in the products too, because those are super helpful. Even if you're doing marketing, it would still be super helpful for you.
Yep.
So yeah, so if you wanted to reach out to tech support, all you have to do is just shoot them an email or call them up and say, hey, I would love to get access for Adobe, the Adobe Creative Cloud, and then they'll help you from there.
Right.
So Adobe Premiere Pro is a timeline-based video editing software application that is oh my god, developed by Adobe. And it is basically, you could be using it to cut video for broadcast quality. It is high definition video as well. There's also different exports that you can be exporting it to for broadcast, for social media, for different types of editing that you are going to be doing. And so Adobe Premiere can be editing with video, audio, graphics, pictures, different, basically like all sorts of different elements that you could be combining into one big video.
Okay, Adobe Premiere Rush is like the first all-in-one cross-device app for creating and sharing online videos fast. So it's not as extensive as Premiere Pro, but if you are shooting video on your phone and you want to edit it for a package and you have a quick turnaround, I would say it's a good app to use. And it also helps you figure out shortcuts for when you're using Premiere Pro as well, just to make the time that you use to edit a little shorter. But you can still edit the video, cut it down, fix color, adjust the audio, add titles. There's a lot of easy to use tools and motion graphics that you can add. And it's free to download on the App Store.
So both Premiere Pro and Rush are both editing softwares. So either one, if you're using either one, they're very helpful. Basically, the difference is that Premiere Rush is used on your phone, and this is a super quick application that you're going to be using if you're in a time crunch. If you have a little bit more lag, I would highly suggest using Premiere Pro. But if you want to kind of put that out, if it's breaking news, use Premiere Rush. If you have an hour left for your deadline, use Premiere Rush. Like, this is going to be super helpful for you. If you're out doing whatever, covering stuff, and all of your footage is on your phone and your laptop's dead, use Premiere Rush. It'll make so much of a difference for you. And it'll be really quick and easy to download as well. Oh, you want to talk about this? Sorry.
Sure. So Adobe Rush versus Adobe Premiere Pro, like Sophia said, it's basically the phone version of Adobe Premiere. It makes it a lot easier to access for those of us that have to use our phones and might not have access to a computer. So for example, I've been on a fire where I had no service. I didn't have my laptop. It was breaking news. And I was able to edit all of that on my phone. And by the time I got to service, I was able to just publish it on social media right away.
Mm-hmm.
So to upload to Adobe Rush, I'm going to show this all on my phone too, just to give you guys an example. All you have to do is press add media and you can add anything from your camera roll. So what this photo in the middle shows is the different videos that they're selecting and photos. And then they're putting in their project name here. But you can also take video or photos, and you can also record your VOs for your packages inside of your package project, or directly here before you even create the project. Cutting is pretty simple. It's a lot like Adobe Premiere. You just select the scissors tool and you scroll to whatever part of the video you want to cut and it'll cut it for you. This is what the story menu looks like. So this is a screenshot of some of the stories that I've done, and it has them all organized here by name and date. And this is kind of what your edited package will look like with your VO as green, your video up here and photos. And I believe you can add up to 4 layers of audio and video. You can add effects and edit the footage as well. So you can edit the temperature, saturation, tint, things like that. You can put in fades, and you can rotate and edit the opacity, things like that. So these are some links for how to use Premiere Rush. This is on Adobe's website. I will put that in the chat because I don't want to take up too much time. And then this is a YouTube video that kind of explains how you can edit more. I'm gonna stop sharing. So Sophia, you can go into Premiere now.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna kind of like talk about Premiere and how just basics of what the different types of levels that you could be doing. So I personally right now work at ABC7 in Los Angeles, and they do have me edit some really intensive packages sometimes. So I'm going to show you just some different timelines, which a timeline is this right here. I'm going to show you some different timelines that your story can look like as well. So I'm going to scoot this over. But basically, this is a package that I edited for ABC7. And as you can see, I have many different layers into the audio, the different footage, different graphics, and different elements too as well that you can do. So you could see that Adobe Premiere does have a lot of intensive things that you could be adding into it. But we're not going to get into depth. I just wanted to kind of show what you could be doing with your different packages. Okay, cool. So this package I did for Valley View News. Sorry, or not Valley View News. I did this for 415 for Davis, and this was kind of fun because Savannah actually was with me too. But as you can see, there's a lot of different footage that you could see here, but we're just going to kind of go back to see what you can do. So usually this is blank when you go into Adobe Premiere. Everything's going to be like blank. And how you're going to upload your footage into Adobe Premiere is you're going to double click in this box right here. And then a lot of your footage is going to come up. So you could go back to, I usually edit off of a external hard drive, and I would highly suggest editing off of an external hard drive because you don't know if your computer is going to completely save everything that's going to be on your computer. Plus, you could run out of storage in the middle of you editing without even knowing, and then everything that you're editing after that will not save. So I would highly suggest going to Walmart or Target or any kind of store like that and pick up an external hard drive that's like 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes. They're usually like $30, so it's not that expensive. And it would save you so much. Like, trust me, it would save you so much by all of your footages. So these are different projects that I've done throughout like the past like year or so. And you could see that like if I wanted to go into this particular project, it was at the Placerita Nature Center, then all of my footage right here is in here. So I would just double click on this folder and then it would upload into here. But since it's already there, then I'm not going to upload it twice. So then you would double click into your footage and you could see all of your different B-roll, your interviews, the different SOTs that you have in there as well, if you already have recorded your SOTs too as well. So you can kind of plug those in. So starting with the basics of how to build a package, I would say you need to start with at least 3 seconds of nat sound. And that's what they're going to call it, is nat sound. It's just basically natural sound that you're hearing while you're filming. So if there's a bird chirping, like you can see here.
The Placerita.
Okay, so you kind of heard that like chirping noise in the background. Most of the time when you're airing on broadcast, they're not going to get that first 1 second, and people are not going to be focused exactly on that first 1 second of a package airing. So you're going to want to hear that natural sound, and people are kind of getting what this package is about to begin with. So you need like the first 3 seconds of your package to be natural sound, and that way they could cut into your package. And at the very end, you're also going to want some like 2-3 seconds of like natural sound as well. And then also use B-roll in the beginning too. And when you're talking, like as you're like speaking your VOs, do not cut that natural sound underneath your breath. A lot of people do that in the beginning, and you as a viewer and you're watching the news, you want to hear what's kind of going on. You want to hear that, oh, I'm literally in nature. Like I'm talking about nature. So you don't want to hear something that's completely silent and it's kind of awkward. So make sure that this audio, you could see right here, it's low. Don't get me wrong. Like make sure that it's not louder than what you're talking, but it's still there. So as
Canyon Nature Center has been hit hard by the pandemic.
You can kind of hear people talking in the background. I don't know if you can hear it on Zoom, but I can hear it on my end. And every single person that you interview, make sure that you get their first and last name and then ask them to spell it out as well. And make sure that you get that on video, because that's how you're going to pronounce their name, the way they pronounce it in the video as well. But as you interview this person, kind of keep in mind what was a good soundbite that you want to use in your package as you're interviewing them. And I would say if you're going to take Davis's class, he's going to say use 10 seconds at the max. Personally, you don't necessarily have to follow after that rule. If you really like the soundbite of what somebody is saying, use 10 to 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds at the max. But sometimes people are saying something that is really important that you need to add into there. And I would highly suggest that. Just don't do it for Valley View News, because then he's going to get on you. But other than that, use what your creativity, what you think is best, but try to stick with 10 to 15 seconds at the max of somebody's talking.
Of like in a standstill, we can't do anything, no projects, nothing. I'm thinking of my volunteers here, right? Probably about 60%.
So it's the same guy talking, but you can see that these are cut, these clips right here. So when you're cutting footage, you do not want to make it look like it's cut, because it's awkward. It also makes the viewer think, that was kind of weird. Did you see that? Like, that was weird. So when you're going to be cutting footage, like you can see in the timeline right here, make sure you put B-roll right there. And then make sure that the B-roll that they're talking about, whatever they're saying, kind of matches what they're talking about. So he's talking about his volunteers. This is one of their volunteers that is helping in the park. As you also go through the package, you kind of want to have like, not necessarily you talk the entire time. You want the interviewee, the person that you're interviewing, and I would highly suggest interviewing at least 2 to 3 people for your package that you're going to be making. Make sure that they are kind of leading and giving more of the details about how they are feeling and their emotional aspect. And then you, as the reporter, can give more of the hard details, the hard numbers, different things like that. But do not put your personal opinion into the package. Let the viewer or the person that you interviewed express how they're feeling about it.
But that's not stopping people from coming and enjoying nature.
Before, there was a difference in people who were coming here. I would never see people here. Now I can barely find a parking spot.
So the Nature Center wants to make it known to people that they still want to be COVID conscious.
As an organization, need.
So when you're kind of talking about different elements of, like in the package, I'm saying they want to let people know that they're being COVID conscious. So when they're kind of talking about that, don't just explain what they're doing, let the other person explain it for you, because it gives more of, you're not the person that works there. So you're not the expert on this subject, you're just the reporter and you're just the person that's relaying the message. So you want to try to give as much of a explanation from them. And you want to write your SOTs, which is sound on tape, around their explanation. And basically a package is, you're going to start out with nat sound, you're going to talk for a little bit, you're going to have an interviewee, you're going to show a different angle of the story or somebody else that has a different perspective. You're going to put B-roll in between all of that. If you have a third person that's also talking as an interview, then you're also going to show them. And then once you're done with all of that as well, and try to stay at around minute, I would say the max, 1:45, 2 minutes, max. Do not make it longer than 1:45, but if it's a special kind of story, then you can. But usually it's 1:30, 1:45. Davis is going to say 1:30, and he will be very strict on like if your package is over 1:30. So you kind of have to be exact. And when you're showing different things as well, try to get as much B-roll, because sometimes, especially when you're shooting your first package, you're not going to have enough B-roll. And you're going to think back and be like, oh my gosh, I did not get enough B-roll. I thought 10 shots was going to be enough and then I was going to be good. And I kind of learned the hard way the first time. So it's kind of like you're seeing a talking head for like 30 seconds. And you're like, this is weird. I'm not seeing any of the art that they're talking about because you didn't get enough B-roll. So I would say at least get like 20, 25, 30 shots, as much as you think you can, even if you think it's like something that somebody's not going to want to see. They weren't there. You're the person who was there. So it might be old to you, but it's going to be new information to somebody who's never been there before. And then at the very end, it's very necessary for you to be getting a stand-up. A lot of people don't get stand-ups when they're reporting. Please, please, please get a stand-up. Yes, Jesse.
I'm like having flashbacks all the way back to Dave Brill's classes, right? Because everything you're saying is like exactly how he taught. And once you're talking about the B-roll, I think it was last year, like I was trying to get a story out, and I guess my point is that it's always good to have too much B-roll.
Mhm.
Like I had to help someone this last weekend get a lot of B-roll for a story coming out on Thursday. What's the news on point for On Point?
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Kyle?
oh yeah, come on, okay. Yeah, I was helping them get B-roll, and oh my gosh, it just clicked. You're Kyle. Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll talk about that after. It's been a long 2 weeks, but yeah, I mean, we got a lot of B-roll, and I was just walking, recording everything I could, like small 15-second clips, like this, like B-roll is one of your best friends. Like,
Yes, it is. I would highly suggest. Also, some tricks that I've learned. Savannah can also talk about this. I'm sure everybody on the call could probably talk about this. Make sure that you're filming at least like 5 different stand-ups, and make sure that you're doing a creative stand-up, a safety stand-up, which is literally, you could kind of just see me standing right there. That's a safety stand-up. Sometimes your creative stand-ups isn't as creative or isn't as great as you think it is, and so you're not going to want to use it after. Also, for your reel, you want to shoot many different stand-ups, because those different types of stand-ups are going to stand out to a news director. And you don't want to kind of just look boring the entire time, but you also want to make sure that they know that you could film a safety stand-up and just be fine filming a normal stand-up by yourself. Also, when you're shooting B-roll, if you're going to pan, I don't suggest panning, but if you are going to pan, start with your footage. Don't pan yet. So start your footage first, like 3 seconds, not panning. Then start panning and stop your footage and make sure that you're still for 3 seconds as well. People get kind of confused when they're watching a package if it just keeps going and then you move to a different scene or a different piece or just something else and it didn't stop. It's just kind of awkward. They're not really seeing the full thing because it was moving and it could have been moving too fast, so they don't know what was really going on. So make sure that panning, you're going to be panning correctly. I would avoid panning to begin with, because beginners usually don't get panning that well. But if you are going to, do not pan throughout the entire thing. Don't put like 5, 6, 7 different shots of panning in there. You're going to make your audience dizzy at that point.
I think a good point to add to that is also to sequence your shots. So don't have just a bunch of close-ups. Make sure you have close-ups, mediums, wides, pans if you do them properly. And anybody who takes On Point or Valley View News, you'll be working with Lincoln, who will be looking at your packages, and he will murder you if you don't do pans properly.
Yeah, and it'll be really awkward when they call you out. But
basic shots first.
but we're learning, so
Yeah.
it's a learning process. Do all your pans now. Every pan that you feel like you want to pan right now, do them all.
Yeah, practice what Sophia was saying.
Yeah. So also, I would suggest when you are shooting B-roll, get at least minimum, at least 5 seconds of B-roll. Don't do 3 seconds. Don't do, and count like Mississippi. Say 1.
I would argue 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I do that in all of my B-roll just to be on the safe side.
That's what I was going to type in. Like, I always have to at least hit 15 and then I'm good.
Yeah.
It's always better to have too much and too long. You can always edit down.
And you could delete all the footage after. Like, you don't have to keep it on your phone. You could, but seriously, get an external hard drive and just dump all your stuff on there and you're good. At the bigger stations, even number 1, number 2 stations throughout the entire United States, most of the multimedia journalists now are shooting on their phone. Their phone. Not like, they're not bringing out big huge equipment anymore. They have lavaliers for their iPhone. They have tripods. They have everything. The equipment that we are personally using in college, they are using as well. And yeah, exactly. Look at what Jesse's using. Like, it's not something super fancy. Don't think that like you can't shoot these types of packages that people are doing because they look so cool or you don't have the right equipment. All of this, I don't remember the last package that I did on an actual camera. I'm gonna be honest. I will throw in some footage that I used on like an actual like DSLR, but most of the footage that I shoot now is strictly on my phone, and that's it. So when you are just kind of like talking about that, but you can kind of see that. Oh, also, rule of thumb, make sure that your stand-ups are between 10 to 15 seconds. Davis would say 10 seconds at the max, but sometimes you can't get all of the information in 10 seconds. Just make sure that your stand-ups are at least 10 seconds at the max, and always end with your location that you're in and your name. So, reporting from Acton, California, I'm Sophia Lesios. I'm currently in Acton right now, and just say your name. It's not like if you're reporting for Valley View News, you would say reporting in Acton, California for Valley View News, I'm Sophia Lesios. Make sure that the audience knows your location. If you're not reporting for Valley View News, if you're just getting coverage on yourself, don't say where you're reporting for. Just say the location and your name. Say your full name. Just say I'm Sophia. People are not going to know who's Sophia. I could be Sophia Vergara, and that we're not the same person. So
stand-ups, make sure you're not just saying for Valley View News in Valencia, I'm Savannah Birchfield. Make sure you're putting information in there that's relevant to the story, but make sure it's not repetitive of something else you've already put in your script earlier in the package.
Yeah. And if it is going to be somewhat repetitive, make sure you have some new information in there. Like, you could repeat something that was like, they're gonna like Disneyland is going to open on April 31st, and many Californians are very excited. And you could have said earlier, many Californians are very excited, but make sure that you're bringing in that new information, like Savannah said, because it's people are going to be like, why is she saying this again? Like, why are they saying this? That was already said. And your news director is going to be like, why did you say that again? That was unnecessary. But when you're cutting clips, like you can see, this is just B-roll here. But this is 11 seconds.
Okay, so all of yours that I looked at, I was like, oh, these all
I don't know if you could hear the background noise. Can you hear the background noise? Yes.
Yes.
Make sure that you're putting that in. So let's say I wanted to use like 4 seconds of this, or that's too long personally for me, but we could say like, oh, I wanted to use like there. So like 3 seconds, and I wanted to put it, I would just drag it over here and put it like right there. You could just drag it. If you sometimes you didn't get good nat sound, or sometimes if you're using a camera and you don't necessarily know how to use it that well, your B-roll is not going to have audio. And that's the scariest part about that. You could take just the footage, you can grab it, like you could see the little hand right here, or you can drag just the audio. I don't suggest that unless you messed up somehow. But most of the time, you're literally just going to grab this, and you can see the little hand, and it's like literally, it looks like a little fist, and then you could see the footage right here. And you could just dump it wherever. Does anybody have any questions about editing so far? Alexis, do you have any? I can't see the chat right now, so I don't know if there's any.
There's nothing in the chat.
No,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, cool. So that's pretty much like a basic of Adobe Premiere as a whole. You're gonna just grab your footage. Like, this is kind of what the timeline looks like. You'll see in a second of what Savannah's phone, but this is basically how you would edit the clips and just kind of dump them in there. as you want to hear that gnat sound. He's not even chirping, but you want to hear that. You're gonna put your SOT, your voiceover, your voice track in there, but you want to hear that sound in the background too. Awesome. Okay, cool. So just to reiterate, make sure that your packages are like a minute 30. You can do like a minute 15, a minute 30 if it's a special kind of story, or if it's something that's like breaking news and it's like really necessary, you can go to a minute 45. Make sure that your stand-ups are 10 seconds or 10 to 15 seconds at the max. Make sure that the person who you're interviewing is 10 seconds. That soundbite is 10 seconds. And each one of your SOTs are going to be like 6 to 10 seconds as well, I would say. Which is this, the little green up here. Awesome.
I was going to say one last thing about if you're dragging just audio from a clip. So for example, I just did a roller skating story and my stand-up was on roller skates, and I have a lavalier that plugs into my iPhone. So a little trick that I did was I shot my stand-up in the same spot with the lavalier so that I could get the audio, and then I took it off and I went to the same exact spot and said the same exact thing. And I took the audio from the second video and I put it under the video of the first, just so that it matched up and I was saying the same stuff, but you didn't have the eyesore of the wire in the way. So that's one time I would suggest using just dragging the audio or just dragging the video, and then grouping them or linking them in the timeline.
Yeah.
Nice.
But those are kind of like special things. So I wouldn't suggest just grabbing audio just to grab audio.
Right. Don't do it if you don't know how to do it.
And don't do it if you don't have to. If it's yeah. So packages are pretty simple, and you don't need to add any extra special types of things, special types of graphics. You don't need dissolves. You don't need certain different little elements that you're going to be adding into more detailed projects. So all of those really fancy YouTube videos of your favorite YouTube creators, they get fancy with their YouTube videos, and you're not doing this with your packages because it's news and they want it as raw as you can get it, without as much editing. So you're clearly telling a story without kind of like an edit or two like split in. So yeah, that's basically Adobe Premiere. Super simple. If you have any questions, you could hit me up. But Savannah, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I don't know how to stop sharing my screen.
I think on the top it has the option. If you look at the top of the Zoom.
I don't. Oh, okay.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Is it doing it? Okay, you guys can see this, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So these are just some of my packages, what your menu will look like of your projects. And what I was saying earlier was you can click that plus sign on the bottom and you can choose to add media, or you can take a video or photo. So like that, kind of cool. You can take your video, you can add that into a project. I'm going to click on the middle one.
I do have a question about that, using the plus for, because I've never done that. Does it?
So if you want to create a project.
Oh no, I mean, does it dull down the quality? Because I've never used that, like directly.
No. So actually, I believe you can choose the quality when you export.
Oh wow.
So if I click on a project, let me see.
That's cool.
The top right, like the middle thing.
Yeah.
That's the export button.
Yeah.
And you can go to your quality settings.
Because I just drag everything in.
Preset. You can choose a preset, so.
Oh, nice.
You can choose different frame rates.
So just letting
you guys also, I think.
Just letting you guys know as well, if you want it horizontal, like as you're seeing right here, the resolution is going to be 1920 by 1080. If you want it vertical, am I saying that right? Yeah, if you want it vertical, which is up and down, you're going to switch it. So it's going to be 1080 by 1920.
Another nice thing about Rush is you can put vertical video in and edit it in the timeline without changing any of the ratios, and it'll actually export it automatically to that size.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then also when you export, you can choose to share it to social media automatically and it'll take you straight to it without having to go to your camera roll and share it that way, or go to the app and then click on it. So this is kind of what a project will look like. Sophia was mentioning earlier, you can have nat sound. So I did 5 seconds of nat sound here before I started talking, and then I lowered the audio. I had to cut it because in Rush, you can't use the pen tool and lower your audio on a clip. You have to cut it and then lower it. So I lowered it when I put my voiceover in right here. And then, as I was saying earlier, you can add graphics, which you can see that on the bottom in the middle. You can add any graphic you want. I can edit the graphic here. I can choose what layer of it I want to edit. That's just if you're doing something on your own. If you're doing On Point or Valley View News, you don't need to do that. But I post my stuff on social media on my own professional pages, so I add those. And then on the top, there's that back arrow, so you can undo certain parts of your project by clicking on it. You can add different effects. So I believe you can add the dissolve to your audio to make your audio lower in certain spots. I don't do that though. It's kind of hard to edit your audio on Rush. That's one drawback. But down on the bottom, you can see this little bar here. You can do all kinds of things. That's where the cut tool is, the scissors. You can add a layer. You can delete. This will select all. So you can use this and select all of your footage. The one thing with Rush is you have to make sure to unclick it when you're done using it, or it'll mess up your whole project. But if, for example, you have to take a huge clump of video and move it, that's a good tool to use. You can also edit the speed of one of your videos. So if I want to make this quicker, I want to make it move quicker, I can do that. Let's see what else there is. I think that's pretty much the basics of Rush though. It's really simple. It's a simple version of Premiere. This is how you can view your different video and audio layers.
Oh, nice.
So like I said earlier, I think you can have 3 or 4 different video layers. This takes up one of the layers. So just a warning, if you're going to add something over the top of that, I don't think you would, because that wouldn't make sense. You're going to have to put it on another layer. But you can add multiple voiceovers. You can also, I believe, separate the audio and video for one of your video clips that you have, and it'll add it to the first audio row. And I think that's it. This is also the ratios you can choose right here. This little button next to the rows. And you can lock, it's pretty much everything that's on Premiere. You can lock certain things, you can do that so you're not seeing it in your preview. Does anybody have any questions?
Andre actually had a question in the chat. He said, how can I set the graphic placement?
Okay, let's see. Let me add a graphic here. So you can choose titles, transition graphics, overlays. They have all kinds, like a ton. Let me see if I can find one that's like lower thirds. There we go. So you choose that. You can literally, you just put your finger on it and you can drag it and move it to wherever you want it. When you're on it too, like I said, you can edit the layers. You can choose different colors. I think you can also choose font style, size, the color fill, line spacing, all kinds of things. I think you might also be able to change like the fade out that it does. See, that's kind of weird. I think you can get rid of that, and an easy way to just get rid of it is if you cut the last part of that graphic off. So like if you go here and you just cut, just make sure you're not cutting the video underneath. You have to have it selected, but it'll get rid of that weird part right there. Does that make sense, Andre? Cool. Also, these little microphones on the bottom, you can click that. You can plug in your lavalier like I have, and you can literally directly in the app, record your voiceover, and then you can cut it and move it to wherever you want.
And you can do that on Pro too.
Yeah,
But it's cooler on here because it's like, that just shows you how powerful the phone app is too.
Yeah,
right. You can do so much on here. It's kind of
Super
amazing.
Like a lot of people swear on iMovie, but you can't do a lot of this stuff on iMovie. iMovie is actually, I don't
I'll
want
be
to say
honest,
basic,
I'm
but
not
it
a
is
fan of
basic.
my movie.
iMovie is, I would say, if you're going on vacation and you wanted to edit like a little video for that, then you use iMovie. But
Right, but you can do it on here too, really easily.
If
yeah,
you want more control, you do it on here. Yeah.
you do. Yeah, you have more control. It's almost like I would say Premiere Rush is more like you're not necessarily an autopilot, but you have control of both manual and autopilot at the same time.
Yeah.
When you're editing in Premiere Pro, everything is manual.
That's a
And
good way of putting it.
yeah.
I'm gonna just kind of show you guys what the effects look like. Well, I actually showed you the effects. You can do motion effects though. So you can do a pan and zoom on here. You're not gonna use that for your packages though. Color, if you have any color issues, you can change like sharpness down here on the bottom, like sharpening. You can put different effects on there. I showed you guys speed, audio. If a certain clip is music or something, you can click the type and you can put music or voice and it'll also automatically change it that way. Or you can change the clip volume manually by clicking it and either doing this or putting the number in yourself, or you can even mute the clip. And then you can reset it too. And then transform, that's pretty self-explanatory. I think that's pretty much it. You can choose if you want to fill or fit something if it doesn't fit the ratios that are on here. I think that's all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to remind you guys, students have this all for free. Yep. And you just have to sign in with your student account, but make sure that you email the IT department at CSUN. If you're on campus, you can go into the library and they're usually there. But since we're not usually on campus right now, just give them a phone call or email them. And it's super simple. Like there's no process or anything to it.
Right, and I think one thing about the app is it will make you sign into your Adobe account. So you have to make sure you have one. I'm not sure if you have to pay money to have an account itself. I think you can have one without having to pay for it. And I'm pretty sure the app is free. One last thing though that I wanted to say was I think this is a really great way to get yourself familiar with editing. And then when you move to Premiere Pro, it makes things a lot easier because you know what you're doing and you get the process done quicker. But I think the quality is also a lot higher on Premiere. This is just, if you don't have time, this is perfect for you.
Yeah, and if you want to get that story out immediately the same day, within, like, let's say you filmed something at 10 in the morning and your deadline is at like 2 p.m. and you got home at like 12 and your computer's taking forever to do that, just go ahead and start editing on your phone. And being able to kind of put all of your voiceovers and everything into there is such a great tool to have, especially having everything in one place.
Yeah,
on your phone. That is so helpful, and it is so great having it for breaking news stories or anything. I would highly suggest being very familiar with both Premiere Pro on your laptop and Premiere Rush on your phone, especially when you graduate. Make sure that you don't have to be an expert. Like, I'm not an expert. Savannah's not an expert. We don't, this isn't our daily job that we edit in for 12 hours a day. But it is good to know these tools and especially be familiar with them because you don't know when you're going to be needing this.
Right. And also to add about the audio thing, I think it's a great tool if you're just pulling video off of your camera roll that you used and you don't want to add those extra files like you would on your computer if you have to shoot your voiceover somewhere else. You can do it directly in the app on both Premiere Pro and Rush, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's super helpful because some apps don't let you do that, and you have to be using different applications just to be uploading different things, and it takes longer, and it's just annoying and a longer editing process. So it's nice to have everything in one place. Cool. Is there any questions before we kind of move on? No? Okay, cool. Well, if you have any questions at all, you are completely free to email me or Savannah, text us, message us on Slack. Jesse's also familiar with both platforms too as well. And I think Andre is too as well. You can reach out to any of the board members and Kyle too. Kyle is an expert in audio editing, so he will be helping us with that too as well. But we're talking about video today. So if you guys have any questions at all, please let us know. But I'm going to stop recording the meeting.
Another thing you guys can do is if you have a LinkedIn account, there's LinkedIn Learning, which is completely free to you. And I believe that there's an Adobe Rush class that you can do on their course. And then you get a certification that you get to put on your profile when you're done. So I just did, I think, a 9-hour Premiere Pro class.
Nice.
And it goes really into depth on different things you can do to make your package really pop. Some of it's not really necessary because it's like, I don't know, fluff stuff that you don't put in a news reporter package, but it's still good to learn.
Yeah. Awesome.